right,
We're
everyone?
live. All right, so there's our audio. Looks like audio is collecting
looking
information. And I'm going to let you start.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. This would be either Sorting Board 7 and or the end of Aiken Saber Academy mic'd up. So I came out here today getting a little bit of epee fights, a little bit of rapier, SCA style fights, and some lightsaber fights in with Aiken Saber Academy. Here joining me today.
Yes, Commander. And so this is really a joint effort between Aiken Saber Academy and Carolina Historical Fencing. So it's going to be cool. We'll create one video for multiple locations.
Yeah.
With me is, Bo just introduced himself. So first off, Bo, before we do anything else, gotta let people know how long we've known each other.
It's been about 4 years now. I'm 20 now, about 5. We're almost 21, 21 in 2 months.
Right,
so it'll be about 5 years now that we've known each other and worked together with each other. Came in early whenever I got involved with Palm of the Knights. Greg Thomas brought me out here, play with the little lightsabers, do some fencing.
So how old were you when you first came out? Come on, tell them.
I must have been 16. I must have been 16 or 17,
16,
either or.
17. He was a young man. He's still a good-looking young man. So he's been around Aiken Saber Academy for quite some time. And every time he comes, we've made some changes. He's fought foam with us. One time he was taking kendo.
I did some kendo, yeah.
Yeah,
I did
you came here
kendo.
and you were fighting kendo style, right? So today he called me. We were going to do a joint podcast together, and he came down. We're mic'd. This is really more his podcast. I've got 40% of ownership. He's got 60%.
It's just half and half right now. It's half and half.
All right.
He invited me out to one, so I figured I would return the favor and come out and do a little more than just a podcast. I wanted to come and really show everyone the community that you've built up and what you're doing for your community. Because there's a lot of, and you see this in HEMA, there's a lot of shyer, nerdier, and that's kind of like the archetype of people that get interested in lightsaber fighting, sword fighting, etc. And part of my mission is I want to give nerds confidence.
I think you're right on. You almost have to be a nerd to fight with a sword, be it metal sword or lightsaber. In my community, which is the lightsaber community, we have people with martial art experience, HEMA experience, tons of it. Multiple black belts. One of my friends is a 7th degree black belt in one of the Chinese martial arts, and he has a lightsaber school. So it's a sport that's growing in popularity. We are still small in comparison to HEMA. But we've learned a lot from watching HEMA fighters like yourself.
I definitely noticed too with your rule sets too. I'm looking at kind of what I'm experiencing on my own, playing with my own new rule sets. It's a younger sport. It really is a younger sport. So there's a lot to learn going forward.
We have differences of opinions. There are some leagues that fight HEMA style but with lightsabers. There's other leagues that fight like Olympic saber style but with lightsabers.
I couldn't even tell you the rules on that.
No, I mean they're pretty much just hit, you get some points. But we're different. We went to look. I looked at those, and I'm actually in both of those organizations. But I looked at the Europeans, and I thought, okay, lightsaber, it's a brand new weapon. What's going to make it interesting to people out there? Well, and we decided to do exactly what the Europeans doing. So you have Ludo Sport out there, you have the Saber Sport League, and you have the French who have actually made lightsaber a sport equivalent to epee and foil and Olympic saber. And we wanted something with a little bit more movement that recreates kind of what you see in the movies, but without being able to fly in the air 25 feet and move people with the force.
Yeah, I don't know. I think if we had the force rule, that'd be pretty cool. You put your hand out, you have to fall down.
Well, that would be something that as an old guy, I could usually use that because I'm slowing down in my old age. But the fact is, it's a new sport. I look at it a different way. But more importantly, this is a school, so I needed to train people in a new way of fighting that would be, in my view, safer and easier for a new student to come in. So a new student walks in, they get about a half hour of training. We actually, every time you come in, you fight your first night. And there's nothing like watching a new student get a block with a lightsaber and a giant smile comes to their face. And we do it in a safe manner.
Yeah. That's something whenever I was judging, I was doing a little bit of commentary as well. I noticed for sure that when you guys, or at least in terms of your rules, when you're fighting, it's safer. Just based on the level of force you allow, and in general how you conduct practice with the arming, with the right of way. It's very much so like this is a chill activity where you can also, like, it's still athletic, but you are mentally exercising yourself as much as you are physically.
Well, exactly. So we, for us, basic fencing techniques are you have to know technique, you have to know timing, you have to have an understanding of speed and distance. So
Yes.
we want to teach these kids that, and it's just easier to learn. But at the same time, we want them to have fun. So there's nothing more fun than spinning in midair if you have the right of way. And we'll explain right away in a second, because what we did was combine two different rule sets used in European leagues that fight totally different, and we made it into one. So when you fight a match here, there are two bouts, and each bout has a different set of rules. But now, when he talked about arming is chambering the blade so that the blade goes behind you. And as soon as you chamber, you have to go ahead and strike. You are armed at that point. So you can't move through a battlefield, so to speak, or a combat arena with it chambered. You have to chamber and immediately arm. And then there has to be a strike arc. So the blade has to move a certain amount of distance. We recommend 90 degrees. And all that helps teach the young people the basics of fencing.
Yeah. I definitely noticed whenever I was fighting today, that was probably the biggest challenge for me, keeping my force down while also keeping that chamber. Especially like just coming from HEMA, usually if I'm chambering the strike, it's going to be a stronger strike. So for me, there was a couple times where I messed up and I didn't chamber a strike.
Well, I mean, anybody coming from a HEMA background to what we do always has exactly the same problems. From an instructor point of view, a teacher point of view, you guys are the hardest students to break out of your habits.
So for me, what it really was the few times I didn't chamber and hit, I was very soft. So in the Southeast in HEMA, there's this thing called excessive force. It doesn't exist really anywhere else in HEMA from what I've seen. And if it does, it takes you a while to get there. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm used to tip tapping. I'm used to being here, pop, being here, pop, versus like now I've got to wind up and go.
Right. And for you, you already told me that wind up almost made you hit a little harder.
I feel like it psyched me out, and I was hitting harder because of the wind up versus when I wasn't winding up, I was like, okay, I didn't get a point, but I tapped the top of the head, right? Because it was the first thing there.
And you have your muscle memory built up for heavier blades and steel blades, and making sure that you hit with the edge and not the flat. With a lightsaber, it's a 360-degree kind of blade, so you could hit from all sorts of different angles. Aiken Saber generally runs, you have to be at least 14 to be an Aiken Saber on up. My oldest student right now is close to 60. I'm 69. But the fact is that none of them have HEMA experience.
Yeah.
And so generally I don't let HEMA people come in here and fight their first time. Every experience we've had with HEMA fighters has been not a really positive one.
How many have you had other than me?
Oh, it's been about 4 or 5 through the years. As our rule sets have changed, and as our understanding of safety and we've changed from rule set to rule set to rule set to find the safest rule set for our kids, this is where we ended up. And we're in a pretty good position. I'm currently working with, and for those that don't understand what Saber Legion is considering a youth league, and I'm on a think tank for that. Saber Legion fights sort of HEMA style. They wear a lot of padded, really cool armor. Outstanding people. Their youth league may use a different rule set. So where in Saber Legion a thrust is allowed with a thicker polycarbonate blade, the youth league may not allow that. Because a lot of issues with working with kids. I'm writing a manual now on teaching saber combat sport to kids. I'm almost done. I'm announcing here on this podcast first.
Okay.
So
you heard it here first, folks.
So the key is to finish this manual, and then I'm just going to send it out into the world to whatever organization wants to use it, so long as they give attribution to Aiken Saber Academy for having written. They can change it up. They can slap their names on it. They could use the information, because the one disadvantage we have as a community is we have very small or very little groups to teach youth on our sport. And that's a big disadvantage, especially compared to like Olympic sport fencing, where you have fencing schools across the world.
Everywhere, it's Olympic.
Yeah, they have certifications, they have regulations on how you become an instructor, all that goes with it. And we're just in our infancy of that. So good on Saber Legion to consider that. Now, I don't know about HEMA. Does HEMA have anything for kids that teaches kids?
One, I want to commemorate you for fighting a war on every front there. I know growing a niche sport isn't necessarily the easiest, but as for HEMA, for youth, the lowest I teach is 14. One of my youngest students is 14. I have a general rule that my Sifu has. Sifu Kizmo taught me Wing Chun. Don't teach kids war.
Right.
You don't teach kids war because kids aren't fully morally developed. Not all the time.
That's correct. There's some ethical issues with
your cerebral cortex isn't completely done until you're like at least 21.
And that's all that's going to be all in the manual. It's all about the differences between kids and adults and the issues and the problems and the growth and how they think and their emotional development. That's all going to be in the manual. And I'm not pushing the manual because I'm not going to make any money out. I'm just going to release it out in the world. And perhaps maybe you can look at it and say, okay, I can take parts of this, stick a Carolina historical fencing on it, change things around, get rid of the word lightsaber in it.
Send it my way. Send it my way. I'll gladly use it. I'll give
you are welcome to it. But you're right. And so 14 to teach a bladed sport, my hat's off to you. Because to be honest with you, I don't know that I would do that.
So a lot of push-ups. A lot of push-ups. That goes for like my students that are my age, a little older, a lot older. If you're not listening and you're being a danger, you're going to get some kind of punishment that is maybe not cruel, but probably unusual. It's either push-ups or we had a guy that was hitting too hard. I said, I want you to hit the bag 100 times as fast as you can without making the bag move or making any sound. Anyways, the guy was whooped by the end of it. I let him fight. He didn't hit hard no more.
Well, you don't learn. So what you've done is you've taken your traditions from your martial arts training, and you've imported them into your school.
Exactly, and that's really what highlights us from other HEMA groups. A lot of them are study groups that kind of just are people working together, building up. A lot of them are 501c. I opened an LLC and just started teaching, and co-founder Connor Gibson, he teaches the side sword and rapier, and I just pay him, right? As of October 20th, I'll be paying him because we had to get on our feet first. But going back to the kind of like youth in HEMA, I went to Queen's Gambit my first year. I believe there was a 15 or 16-year-old. That was the youngest competitor I saw. But that tournament also is like you can end the entire bout in 2 exchanges because it's to 4 points. So if I hit you in the torso and I hit you in the hand, it's over, right? Because everything's 1 and 3. And it has an excessive force rule. And there's a lot more rules at Queen's Gambits than like you'll see at like my tournaments or like Raleigh Open. I probably caused a lot of rules change at Raleigh Open last year and this year. But
I think watching your podcast and listening to you speak, I heard some controversy in there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not above or below anyone or anything. I'm human like the rest. I go and I have fun. I went the whole year without a single yellow card. In judo and in sword fighting. I got 1 warning. Impressive. I got 2 warnings.
Because at the end of the day, if you're not having fun, if it's not great sportsmanship, why do it?
Yeah, because you got to have sportsmanship.
The wins mean nothing in the long part of your life.
It's funny, people thought my shorts were unsportsmanlike conduct. And I was sitting there like I gave everyone a hug after. I was hyping everyone up. I love everyone that I fought. I mean, it was beautiful. And the spirit of competition, especially being in the highest tier at Raleigh, Tier A, it was there, and it was so chill. And then people that weren't there were like, "Woo!" They were super mad about it.
Well, you're gonna be proud. I will say at Lightsaber, we have a lot of old freaking people still fencing, and so I mean, I'm still fencing, and I'm 69, but there's a lot of 50-year-olds and 40-year-olds. We do not have enough schools, and that's going to be an issue for both of our groups. If we want to grow, we need to have the youth challenge. Now you got different issues because of the metal bladed. So your environment where you teach and all that has to be different than where I teach.
It always starts in a park. It always starts in a park, and I'm actually in the middle. So what I did was I started Carolina Historical. And over time, we became friends with pretty much everyone in the Southeast that, likes me at least. Probably don't like me out for short shorts as much, but I'm cool with everyone in the Southeast, and if not, then that's their fault. But with South Carolina specifically, we have representation in every club in Carolina Historical. So South Carolina, even Fashion Armored Combat with Greg Thomas now, we have representation with them. So I've kind of taken that and tried to use what I've made to unite South Carolina in a way. Right. And we're in the middle of starting up a Myrtle Beach group, or we're hoping to.
That's pretty impressive.
We're hoping to.
I mean, you're, as a young man, an old man looking at a young man, you are an extremely impressive young fellow. I mean, the fact that you went out and you started something that is in your passion, and somehow you're making a living out of it.
It's been an uphill battle. I wouldn't call it a living. I'd call it like a nomadic lifestyle. I'd call it being homeless if I went with my mom and pop still.
Well, you're not the only one. So if you look at the leagues, Saber Legion, which is a biggest league in the United States for lightsaber, it's all volunteers. Nobody gets paid.
That's most of HEMA.
It's all volunteers. If you look at Lightspeed, that's primarily West and Southwest group, second biggest league. Again, mostly volunteers. They are, but the founder, he's just now starting to make a profit out of doing this.
It takes a while.
Yeah, Ludo Sport, which comes out of Italy, is about the closest we have to actually fighting sort of like a lightsaber. These guys all jump around. They only wear protective gloves and maybe some glasses, and that's it. So they don't have any other protective equipment.
Nice.
They're actually a franchise. They're like McDonald's of lightsabers.
McDonald's of lightsaber, I like that.
You go and you buy a Ludo Sport franchise. There's a recommend on the fees and how the fees got to be paid. A percentage has got to go back to the headquarters back in Italy.
Yeah.
And there's probably 10 Ludo Sport schools in the United States. So they're spread out.
They're all over the place.
They've kind of figured out how to make a profit out of what we consider a passion.
Yeah. For me, so when I ran Midlands Madness, our first tournament, right, I had to make it a little less affordable because I paid staff. I had 1,000 things I had to buy. I mean, I had to set myself up independently for it. This year, I don't have to spend as much money because of that, but still things like staff, still things like venue, which venue is probably arguably more expensive. I would say it's. I don't know if it's more expensive this year. I'd have to look at last year versus this year. I feel like last year is cheaper, but I am unsure of that. If I do the math, it probably isn't. But and we ran it in a very small studio, but it wasn't really where we ran it. It was how we ran it. Everyone there left saying they had a good time. Even people that got kicked out were like, yeah, I had a great time. And it kicked out, I say red carded out. They broke a big rule or broke too many little rules. Right, and they were like, that was awesome. And, I'm very blessed that this year I get to do it at the Warrior Warehouse where I started my club originally, or at least started holding practice with my club there. And I get to do it there. I get a very fair price. I get insurance. My insurance company. Right. I get to work with a lot of awesome people.
Right. I don't think you could actually conduct classes in facilities. So for those that don't know, we're in Odell Weeks. It's an activity center run by the city of Aiken. I'm a little bit lucky because Aiken Saber Academy is actually a city recreation program. So I don't need to be an LLC. I set the fees. For me, the fees are $25 a month. That could easily be $100. Yeah. The activity collects it. I get 75% back of what you don't get a better deal than that. But if I had to go and run a competition here, I would have to rent a gym. And pretty much the big leagues that are in lightsaber, their championships are held in Las Vegas, so they get giant ballrooms and things like that. Yeah,
spend all that money.
But even the charters, and that's South Saber Legion broken down into state charters. The biggest, more successful charters, they have to raise money, and they do raise money for their own competitions, which what we would think of as regional competitions. What you're doing seems to be a regional competition.
Mine is very anarchist. That's the best way to put it. Mine's very anarchist. I have one tournament. So with the short shorts controversy, I decided that I would make a short shorts tournament and put it on HEMA scorecard. So this is a internationally rated tournament.
Okay. All right.
And it's the only one that I've ever held that is. I won't hold Midlands Madness that way because of our rule set. I simply I simply can't input the scores how they want me to specifically do it, so I can't.
So when you say short shorts, I've got to ask, what are we talking about here?
All right, so originally here.
Okay.
They cut off.
So he's pointing to his upper thigh.
All right, I'll stand up.
There we go.
So originally, they probably went to here.
So we're not talking.
But for the tournament, instead of buying patches in the spirit of competition, I cut them shorter. I cut them shorter where my butt cheeks are hanging out. But with every bit of fabric that I cut out, I'm making a custom patch for each competitor.
Okay. So are they padded?
No, they're jeans.
Oh my goodness.
They're jorts. Well,
so
they're like jongs now.
So what weapons are you fighting?
Longsword. This is just a longsword tournament. I would love to open it up to saber, but I just don't know enough people that do saber.
Right. So longsword is only waist up hits?
No. We're going to do a dice roll for thigh shots. If you hit a thigh shot on the right dice roll, it ends the whole bout. But you can still score a point off a thigh shot.
Because I have HEMA shorts. They go down to my knees.
Yeah.
They're padded, and then you wear
Are they like
shin
puncture
guards.
resistant rated?
Yeah.
So like I wore those today.
Yeah, no, it was
Well,
great.
I'm wearing them right now.
Right, I have a gambeson. I have a nice HEMA jacket.
Yeah.
And then I got the padded shorts with the suspenders that cut. The whole deal. We don't need it here.
Yeah.
Because we have the custom armor.
I just chose. Shout out to Soft Warrior Sparta. Ilias was shooting. I'm actually talking to Ilias about making some HEMA gear right now.
Okay, he's already in the process of doing it.
I talked to him about it. I was like, "Hey, man,
the new gloves."
I have not seen the new gloves. I've seen the helmet outline.
Yeah.
I was like, "Can you please put mesh on the face?"
So for people that don't know, Soft Warriors is a company in Ukraine, of all places, and I approached them a while ago to make lightsaber specific armor, so that we wouldn't have to wear HEMA gear, so we wouldn't have to wear hockey pads. Something specific to lightsaber, but different than what other people are creating for themselves with leather and kydex and all that stuff. And they came up with this beautiful foam over the top of thicker plastic, and it has worked out. And they have leg protection, arm protection.
And it was originally for bowhurt.
It was originally, but they thinned it down by putting the plastic in there.
Yeah.
So for the bowhurt stuff, they had just the thick
just the foam.
Yeah. But now they're using plastic in all their products.
I haven't kept up with them recently, but whenever I talked to Ilias, literally yesterday, our concern was we're wearing fencing masks, and there's a lot of people that don't want to be concerned with the excessive force rule. So I was like, all right, how can we make a helmet that's suitable for HEMA? And I talked to him about it. He's like, oh, we're working on it. And I was like, cool. That was that. So like a suspension liner, something with more padding, and something that will still catch the blade proper.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to get all of that in one helmet, and there's a handful of helmets that I'm sure will qualify.
I have one of their foam helmets they're one of their foam competitions. I have no need to wear. We do foam competition here, but we have looked around for different kinds of headgear. There's some fellows that wear like hockey equipment with polycarbonate mask over the top. To be honest, there's nothing that, at least in lightsaber, takes the place of a real fencing helmet. And some people don't like it, but you can get back of the head protection and all that stuff for it.
I like the back of the head protection. Right. I'm a big back of the head protection guy, but my thing is like the internals of the helmet. If you look in that, it's nothing but your face is sitting in it.
Oh, you took out the stuff inside of it?
No, I mean even that's not enough. You know what I mean? To stop like a proper concussion from a blade at least. Or even a lightsaber. I'm sure if you swing it hard enough and give somebody a concussion, it'd be a lot harder.
Yeah, I will say that at least the American lightsaber groups, and I talk to them all the time, we're on podcasts and stuff, they've made safety their number one priority.
Yeah.
So in the old days, using a thicker, heavier blade, yes, you could hurt somebody even with a fencing helmet and actually bend the fencing helmet.
Yeah.
Those days are
mine
over.
is bent right now.
Those days are over. But you're right. For what you guys do, you need something different. Now, there's a company in China that makes, I think it's called Wakusi.
Wakusi Cobra, that's actually what I was about to bring up. They have a lot of padding on the inside.
Right. It's an uncomfortable helmet.
You think so?
I have one.
I love one.
I
love them. I wore one at Yule Toy Tourney last year.
How much
I loved it.
Make me an offer.
I don't know the price. I would say $150.
I'll tell you what. Look at the price. Never wore it. Cut it in half, and it's yours. I couldn't give it.
I'll do it right now.
I couldn't
We probably have
think
the
of a
same
better
size
person.
head.
It is supposed to be a large. Doesn't fit my big noggin.
I wear a small.
This will fit you. Should fit you. And you don't have to take it when you.
SoCal selling it for 220, 110.
Yeah, 100. Make it 100 even. Never used. Oh, deal.
When I get the money, I'll invest in it. I want to see it first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we'll figure out a time and place. If you want to follow me home tonight, you can take it home tonight and send me the money when you have it.
Yeah, I mean, if it fits.
Oh,
if it fits.
If
not, maybe I could use it as a loaner helmet, but I don't have a lot of holes.
Well, don't buy it if it's not for you. Don't buy it. If it's not for you. You know what I mean?
We do have loaner masso in the Dojon that might need to be replaced. So
right.
If I can justify it, maybe.
Right, because it's kind of I will say it's a cool helmet. It just doesn't fit me. It's very uncomfortable to me, and
it does limit your neck mobility.
Yeah, and
that was one thing I noticed wearing it.
It was built. Supposedly it was built for HEMA use more so than lightsaber. So
I didn't feel a single thing whenever I wore it. I wasn't getting hit that hard.
Yeah.
But I would imagine in like Raleigh Open or like a West Coast tournament, getting hit with a koozie on, I'd be fine.
All right, audience, you're hearing that. So he's going to follow me home. He's going to try the helmet on. You pay me when you have the money, and that's good enough for me.
There you go.
How's that sound?
It's a business deal on camera right there.
Yeah, there it is. That's as good a contract as you're going to get.
Yeah, the handshake seals the deal.
Yeah, I could not.
My dad taught me that.
Yeah, and I really hope it fits you.
I do too.
I hope it's perfect for you. And if not, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. Gas come over my house.
Now, if I find someone that might want it though,
that
has a large,
I will give it to because I make that deal for you.
Okay.
I won't make that deal for somebody else.
All right, never mind. Everybody else,
because I have my other students and stuff.
Yeah, make that deal to them.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I couldn't for you. It doesn't matter to me. I couldn't think of a better deal for you.
The overlay on it though.
Yeah.
Very protective.
Yes.
Very. Yes. Absolutely. That hard plastic is arguably better than most steel.
Right. So
absorbing impact.
So a Wakusi is a helmet that was built in China for fencing. Very rare. So it's got a little less of a screen. So think of more like Darth Vader's helmet.
Looks exactly like it looks like a super. No. It looks like G.I. Joe. What's the one off G.I. Joe?
Oh, yeah,
the dude in black.
Yeah.
Like him.
One of the ninja guys.
One of the ninjas. Yeah, I haven't watched G.I. Joe in forever.
It's a cool looking helmet with back of the head protection held in there. I mean, it's just a beautiful piece of gear.
Yeah.
Totally unreasonable for me, and it hasn't worked out. And I bought it because I wanted it, and then I don't. Now I would only give it to somebody like Bo, who's a friend who makes some use of it.
Now you use an Absolute Force helmet, right?
Well, you call it Absolute Force, and I call it Absolute Fencing.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes.
They branded my helmet over there with the overlay. It's the AF Deluxe. And they call it Absolute Force.
Right.
I did a pressure testing. I don't know if you saw that on the helmet.
Okay.
That thing takes a beating.
Yeah.
It is a really good helmet. So if you ever wanted something with back of the head, you could get the Deluxe right there.
Back of the head hood.
Oh, you have the hood?
I have the little piece that slips in the back. I got a bunch of those. For gorgets, for this, if I wanted to use a gorget, I have the little red dragon ones that we don't thrust. So
I keep the roughneck from Purple Armory.
Yeah,
the one I had on today. I mean, you couldn't see that everything else on, but I mean, it's just a strip over your neck.
Yeah, I have a metal.
That's the trick.
I have an expensive metal gorget. Terrible thing. And nobody wants to wear it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't. It's lightsaber. Lightsaber's supposed to be free, and you're supposed to be able to move, and you're supposed to be able to spin in the midair and get a strike, which one of the rule sets you can do. How'd you like melee?
I loved it. Now I was shocked by the lack of arm guards.
Right.
Even with something like a lightsaber, I was like, ooh, man.
Right.
I was like, oh man, if I got hit by that, I'd be.
Our first rule set is based off of traditional fencing, so it's called right away, and the first person to move an arm has the ability to conduct a strike. His opponent has to conduct a defense to gain back that right of way. So basically it's called priority. So you chamber, you strike. If you're blocked, now the other person can chamber and strike. And they got about a second to do it before it resets. So that's the first rule set. It goes a minute and a half, 30-second rest. Melee, there is no right of way, but you have to fight two-handed.
I did enjoy, so melee felt more comfortable in a way. I mean, I guess the right of way felt comfortable for me because I was like, all right, we got to go back and forth here. and it's one-handed, so I'm not too worried about hitting too hard, yada yada. I don't have to make this big arc swing. I've done a good bit of Giovanni Dallagocchie, so just swinging the shoulder. I think I did a wrist cut, and one of y'all were like, "All right, no."
You weren't armed, but yeah.
Yeah, but so there's also like with the melee, like I kind of stated previously, is like when I had the arm, I felt like I was gonna hit too hard every time.
Right.
Versus like when I didn't hit hard.
Right.
So but that's just how I'm used to fencing.
You have to arm it, chamber it. So you got to bet 3/4 of the blade sort of behind you. So you get it over your head, you can get it here, but it's got to be over your head and immediately strike.
Yeah.
You can't. So what you did is you went to fool's guard and had that blade behind you, which is like permanently armed.
Yeah.
Right? It's basically like putting a pistol in your pocket, but not putting the safety on and the hammer back.
Just got a hammer back.
Right. I can't. No, it's not the thing we want to do. So yeah, it was cool. But that comes from his HEMA training. That's why I would prefer taking new kids and new people.
Yeah.
It's easier to train them in the proper way than it is to untrain somebody that has a lot of
untraining people is difficult. So something really interesting is I have a student that I actually grew up with and didn't know it. And we grew up in the same dojo. And he came in, and he's originally a striker. You know how difficult it is teaching a striker grappling when all they want to do is punch you the whole time?
Yeah.
It sucks. It absolutely sucks. You got to untrain this dude's instinct to clinch and knee, to clinch and Dayashi Barai or something.
Yeah.
Like a simple foot sweep or go. Teaching grips for him, teaching grips to him is kind of a mess sometimes. But teaching sword fighting, because we grew up together in the same place, was kind of a breeze, even though he didn't grow up doing sword class with me.
Right. So I'm a boxer, so I get that. I'm a striker. Was a boxer.
Yeah.
But in the years since my boxing, I picked up a little bit of Brazilian groundwork as well.
Okay.
Now, as well as some joint manipulations and stuff like that, because boxing is great for hand speed. But what happens if you go to the ground? Or how do you disarm somebody if you can't, if you can't grapple or, say, apply an arm bar?
Fist doesn't work past here.
Right, exactly. Right.
Same with a sword.
But like adding new techniques like elbow strikes, like adding new techniques like I said with joint locks, like adding takedowns, making yourself more. That's why MMA fighters always win when they fight traditional artists. Yeah, because they are the Swiss Army knife against just a plain stiletto, right?
It's funny. I did a podcast with Greg Thomas, right? Clay. And he was talking about his Army combatives career, how he came from Kyokushin, and he made it all the way to finals, and then got put in like a rear naked choke. And he was like, "Oh man, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should go grapple, right?" And so now he's picked up judo, and he's a wicked grappler now. I don't want to get close to him.
Yeah, but Clay is like,
Clay's huge.
Clay's
huge.
Clay's
he had to fight a dude that was probably his size, but it was a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy, and he got him on the ground.
Clay's got. So for those that don't know, Clay's a really good friend of mine. I would say he was a mentor to you.
Yes, he was. Big brother for sure.
He's a police officer.
Team captain.
He was in the Armored Combat Leagues and probably still is Armored Combat.
He still does. He refuses to quit. I've heard him go on and off about, I don't want to fight, I want to fight, I don't want to fight, and then he stays in it anyway. So you can tell this is something interesting here, is like the best leaders are the ones that won out so bad. And I feel that sometimes. I'm like, oh my God, all the stress. And I've seen him go up and down through that. And you know what? At the end of the day, he killed it. I mean, he made Bash in Armored Combat, and just took it and did exactly what he said he was going to do with it. It's 5 fighters, 4 fighters.
You think Clay will listen to the podcast?
Oh yeah, I was at his house before I came here.
Yeah, much love to you.
For real.
Much love.
Yeah.
So just for those that wonder why, even at old age, you continue to fight, there's nothing like being in a battle space one-on-one against another fighter. And it doesn't matter whether it's blades,
It's a different
or you're unarmed, or whether you are using lightsabers. And to this day, I still, at my age, I'll be 70 next July, so I just turned 69. I still get at a thrill. We fought rapier today.
Yeah, we did SEA rapier rules.
I did okay. It was all right.
You caught me in the face really good. I was like, oh man, it's flush right here.
Never used a rapier like that before, so
you killed it.
You always do. And then you had You had an offhand blade for blocking and striking, which we never used that before. But it was a lot of fun. So for those that are out there and may listen to the podcast and go, how you can get involved, I would say there's SCA, Society of Creative Anachronisms.
SCA is just about everywhere.
They're pretty much everywhere. If you can't find them, look for fencing schools, regular traditional fencing schools.
HEMA schools. You'd be surprised how spaced out HEMA schools are, but sometimes they're concentrated.
Lightsaber is getting bigger, and there are generally charters and groups in most states, or just take up a martial art.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Judo.
Yeah.
Those are the main two I recommend.
Yeah, I think if I were recommending effective martial arts, just from my perspective, I'm a Muay Thai.
I don't even know what it is.
Muay
Thai. Okay.
Yeah, with elbows and knees. And
I would say
is very effective. And then if you can throw in some ground stuff from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you'll be a complete fighter.
Mine's Judo or Sambo, combat Sambo. Yeah. If you could learn one, combat Sambo. If you get good Judo, you get good wrestling, you get good striking. There's headbutts.
The issue is going to be, people don't all have the same physicality for those things. So if you're maybe slightly disabled or you're a little out of shape, consider a Keto. Keto is a little bit more of a passive rather than aggressive martial art. It'll teach you flow and movement, grace and timing. Wing Chun is the same way. So Wing Chun is what you know as Kung Fu. Get involved. There's nothing more fun than competing against yourself first off and growing within a martial art, or competing against somebody, but it's in a fun, non-hostile way, just enjoying the thrill of scoring some points on them.
And even for some people that practice, some people find comfort in the hostility in the fight too. And if you're one of those people, go to an MMA gym. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, that's because you're young.
At
my age, I'm not looking for hostile fighters, right? But there's nothing wrong with that.
I know a few guys.
Yeah.
Not quite your age.
Yeah.
But they're up there, and there's some aggressive dudes still. And I'm like, man, when is the testosterone going to run out?
You know what? If you're, I hate to say it never runs out.
Really?
It's built into people's personalities.
It makes me feel a little better.
Well,
it makes me feel a little better. It makes me feel.
Well, listen, we're going to have to wind this down, so we can go get you your helmet, and hopefully you will like it. It was a real joy having you today. So
it's a joy coming. It's always an honor coming.
I can't say that I am more prouder of anybody than I am of you.
Thank you.
I mean, you're not my son, but I kind of feel like you are.
I've got so many dads, you wouldn't believe it.
Well, that's a good place to be in, right?
Yeah, that's a great place.
I mean, you're going to receive a lot of guidance from dads.
It is nice. A lot of people don't realize that if you do listen to people older than you, you can not learn the hard way.
No.
And I've learned the hard way enough times to know that I don't want to do it again.
Well, don't kid yourself. I mean, I'm a senior citizen. I'm not a big fan of senior citizens. I go to Publix, and there they all are. First of all, they can't drive.
They're senior citizens. They're senior citizens.
Yeah. They park their carts in the middle of the aisle.
Oh my God!
They push you off the tomatoes. You're sitting there looking at tomatoes. They passively aggressively try to get to them.
Oh my God!
So you don't have to listen to every senior citizen out there, but there's some
not the senile, the seniors.
Oh no, they're seniors. They can be assholes.
I know a handful.
Yeah. Well, listen, it was a real joy and a pleasure. This is your podcast, so you're going to get the final word.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I even have to edit this up. This is great. Thank you guys all for watching. I hope to see you in the next, and stay tuned for more.
All right. Everybody have a good night.